Chapter 8. The Last Shedding. Blinding white light faded into chaos. Outside, the point where everything had converged had become a storm of broken magic. Vines tore through earth and wood, fire spiraled without fuel, and animal shapes flickered in and out of sight as though they could not decide what they were supposed to be. At the center of it all stood Neville Longbottom, steady and pale, while everything around him convulsed and shifted. A layered voice moved through the room again and again, almost whole. Harry and Ron strained to hold the perimeter as their spells began to do little more than slow the damage. A large vine broke free and lashed past Ron, only to be driven back by a bolt of light from Gawain Robards. The vine struck the far wall and recoiled toward the center again. Gawain had come back with reinforcements, a small army of Aurors along with Ginny Weasley and Hermione Granger. The extra help made a difference, but only barely. The room was still erupting around them. A burst of flame shot across the floor, and everyone dove out of the way as the chaos grew worse. Ron shouted, "This isn't holding." Harry yelled back, "We need to end this, not hold it." Then he looked toward Gawain and called, "On the count of 3, Oxio Neville out of there, and Ron and I will destroy it." Gawain nodded at once. Harry drew a breath and began. 1, 2. Hermione stepped directly in front of him, stopping him before he could go on. "If the curse completes its life cycle naturally," she pleaded, "it stabilizes and can end." "And if it doesn't?" Harry asked. Hermione's face was tight with urgency. "Then it tears itself and everything around it apart." Inside the white space, Neville stood facing Nagini as the world around them shifted again and again. Forest shadows gave way to firelight, then stone walls, then empty whiteness once more. Nagini remained still in front of him, phasing between human and serpent form as though she could not settle on either. Neville's voice was calm when he spoke. "You don't remember who and what you were anymore?" Nagini answered quietly. "I remember being afraid. I remember being used." Something in Neville's face changed. Understanding began to settle there. "She's not trying to return to life," he whispered to himself. "She's trying to return to her identity." Then he looked at her fully and said, "You don't need to become whole again." Nagini frowned in confusion. "Then what am I?" Neville's voice stayed soft, steady, and kind. "You're someone who deserved a choice and never got one." Outside, the chaos faltered a little, as though the room itself had heard him. Harry shouted toward Hermione, "We can't just stand here and let Neville get cursed." Hermione shouted back, "We don't have a choice. You have no control here. You have to trust Neville." The vines continued their assault. Flames whipped through the room. Harry's instinct was to act, to force the issue, to end it himself before anything could happen to Neville. He raised his wand. Then a soft hand reached from behind him and gently lowered it. Ginny's voice came close and quiet in his ear. "It's okay, trust Neville." Harry let out the breath he had been holding. For one brief moment, he relaxed. Then another burst of flame shot toward him and Ginny. They ducked aside just in time, Harry scrambling back to his feet with his wand ready once more. But he still could not do it. He could not cast the purge spell. And in that moment, he understood something he had not wanted to admit until then. This was not something he could fix by force. Not this time. For the first time, Harry lowered his wand. Back in the white space, Neville faced Nagini. "I can't bring you back," he said. He paused, then added, "But I can help you move on." Nagini looked at him with an expression that was finally calm. Then recognition passed over her face. "It was you," she said. "I remember now. It was you. You released him from me." Something else clicked into place for her, and her voice sharpened. "You killed me." Neville answered quietly, "Yes." They stood still, staring at one another across the white emptiness. At last, Nagini spoke again. "I understand," she said. "But why am I still here?" Neville swallowed. "Your curse didn't complete because of me, but I'm here now to tell you that you can complete it now. I think, and be truly free." "Free?" Nagini repeated, frowning. "I don't know what that means. I have no memory of being free." She took a step closer, and when she spoke again, her voice had grown rough with anger and pain. "Blood curse as a child, labeled a freak, used as a vessel, a tool for unspeakable evil." Neville stepped toward her as well. "I know," he said. "You know?" Nagini snapped. "What do you know? You killed me, and now you're trying to finish me." Neville hesitated, then took another step. "I killed you, yes. You were his snake, his tool. I didn't know what you were." His voice tightened, but he kept going. "I had to. He took so much from me. He took so much from you. He took from everyone. From the snake, there was no other way for you, or for us." Nagini lowered her head. When she spoke again, the anger had left her voice. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do. This curse is urging me to take you over, but I don't know if that's..." Neville interrupted gently. "You'd only be repeating the same life, the same end, and dragging me with you." Nagini was quiet for a long moment. "Move on?" she asked finally. "What happens?" "I don't know," Neville admitted. "I can only say it has to be better than what you've had so far." She looked at him then, hopeful but still unsure, as though hope itself were something she barely remembered how to trust. "How?" she asked. Neville stepped forward and embraced her. He held her close and whispered in her ear, "Just let go." He tightened his arms a little more, his voice still soft. "Don't fight, just absorb and let go." Nagini repeated the words faintly. "Let go." Then her form turned to light. The light slowly dissolved in his arms until there was nothing left to hold. Neville stood there for a second, empty-armed, and heard only the last breath of her voice. Thank you. Outside, everything stopped at once. The vines vanished. The flames were gone. The room was suddenly just the leaky cauldron again. Normal, intact, and full of stunned silence. 7 Aurors and 2 witches stood in the tavern, all of them frozen in the wake of what had just happened. Then Neville collapsed to the floor. Harry reached him first and lifted his head carefully. Neville, stay with me. Neville, wake up. Neville's eyes fluttered open. He's okay, Ron said to the others, relief plain in his voice. Neville looked up at Harry, drew a slow breath, and gave him a tired, grateful look. Thank you, Harry, he said, for holding back and for trusting me. He managed a faint smile. But Harry, I really think you lot have got this now. I think I'm going to take a break from being an Auror. A few minutes later, Tom returned, vastly relieved that his tavern had not been destroyed, and Hannah Abbott came back too, equally relieved that Neville was all right. They poured drinks for everyone, and for the first time in days, the room felt almost peaceful. Harry took a long swallow of butterbeer and looked around. It was nice, he thought, not to be the center of attention for once. Then he crossed to Neville, who was telling the others about what he had seen, and clapped him on the shoulder. Great job, Neville. The next morning, after visiting a very tired but otherwise healthy old wizard at St. Mungo's, who had been delighted to meet Harry Potter and had not minded the overnight stay in the slightest, Harry and Ron returned to Hogwarts greenhouses for a follow-up report with Professor Sprout. They wanted to make sure there were no lingering spells or curses left in the grounds. They were surprised to find Neville there too, visiting Professor Sprout. Ron looked over at him with a grin. All's well with the plant life, Neville? No more killer vines? Neville smiled, softer than before, but lighter somehow. No more. The image of a small snake moving peacefully through the grass gave way to a wide view of the school, calm at last,